Well, right now we are in a series that we're calling Crucial Conversations. And a crucial conversation is just a conversation where we know that the stakes are high, emotions sometimes can be strong, and it's really important that the outcome comes out successfully. And today's conversation probably isn't even going to sound like a crucial conversation at first, but I would argue that I think it is. And the conversation is, do I really need other people in my life? And I think that most Christians would say yes, but if you looked at our calendars, it would oftentimes tell a different story. Because we attend church and we know people, we shake hands, but being known and being connected aren't always the same thing. And today, I get the pleasure of talking to my brother-in-law, John Henniger. He is the lead pastor at Central Christian Church in Mount Vernon, and he is one of my best friends in the entire world. And John, one of the things that I love about your church is, and I might mess up the saying, but help me out here, is you guys have a saying that says relationships matter because they lead to the relationship that matters the most. Is that right, or is that close?
Yeah, it's real close. So we say relationships matter most because they lead us to the relationship that matters most.
Well, I love that. Why has that just became a core value of Central?
Relationships are one of those things, like you said in your intro. I mean, it's one of those things that, we think are nice, but is it really necessary, right? Like I can be a lone wolf, I can be a maverick, my own man, whatever it is. But especially, I mean, it's a rare thing among men, right, that we would open ourselves up to relationships. But even just in general, I think we see it as a nicety, not a necessity, right? But for sure, I mean, if you look at the Bible, it's like relationships matter most is a biblical concept. I mean, that's how God that's what God uses. That's a tool that God most often uses to bring people to faith and to strengthen us in our faith in the daily walk.
Yeah, and I think a lot of times people say, "Well, I go to church. Why would I need to do more than that? Why do I need to join a group?" At Central or just in general, what do you see that happens in community or happens in groups that doesn't happen in that weekend service? What is it that people are missing?
I mean, there's relationships are that access piece, right? I mean, like there's just a lot of things that you'll never have access to in somebody else's life or that they'll have access to in your life without that relationship component. And it's one of those things that the longer you're in it, the I don't know, the more open you become or the more valuable the relationship becomes, right? I mean, like you and I have been friends for 23 years,
Yeah,
and which is wild. But I mean, there's things I know about you.
they don't have
Walked,
to know all of that.
I've walked in with you, um, and likewise, I mean that you've seen in me or walked through with me. I mean that just don't happen in a casual friendship that you meet somebody and they're gone the next day or whatever. I mean, like there's a depth to understanding. I just think there's a ton of value to not just a relationship, but those lasting relationships that, I mean, what does the Bible say, right? Iron sharpens iron, so friend sharpens friend. So that only happens over time. And so as we develop those lasting relationships, God uses those to sharpen us in our faith walk and really to better us in every way of life. I mean, it's not just a faith thing. It's primarily a faith thing, but it's not
Hmm.
just a faith thing. I mean, relationships make us better, give us the access to things in every area of our life.
For sure. I tell you things that I'm not going to tell other people in life. And if I'm coming to your church, I'm not going to tell the door greeter the things that I'm really struggling with. It's got to have that
Sure.
layer of trust.
Yeah, right. 100%. And I mean, I think a lot of times we look at acquaintances like relationships, and it is some level of relationship, but that's not the transformative relationship, right?
Right. And it's always disappointing. I love whenever somebody comes to church for the first time and they're excited, they're loving church, but I'm sure we've all seen moments where somebody all of a sudden you look back and they've not been to church for months. They're completely disconnected. Now, looking back, do you ever feel like there were signs that the people started to disconnect relationally before they started to disconnect spiritually? Have you ever seen that they didn't get plugged in? And
Sure. I mean, specifically in the church, there's a ton of data out there. I don't have the exact numbers, but I mean, it's a high percentage where, like, if somebody new comes to your church and they don't have meaningful relationships, like three meaningful relationships and a sense of purpose within the first year, the chances of them leaving are way high. But if they find three meaningful relationships and a sense of purpose within that first year, then they're a whole lot more likely to stick around, to buy into what's going on, and to see their lives changed because of it. And so, I mean, especially talking about church world stuff, there's huge importance to having relationships. But to answer your question, I don't know. I mean, I think for sure, right? I mean, we see when people are depressed or struggling with stuff, kind of sometimes our natural reaction is to become reclusive, to remove ourselves from relationships for sure. Like when we're caught up in stuff we shouldn't be, when we're living a life that we shouldn't be, we're for sure going to remove ourselves from the people who know us best, the people who can
right.
call us out on it, you know? And so, yeah, that's just a natural progression or regression, I guess.
But yeah, absolutely. Now, you've been in this role right now, and there's so many people who are in leadership positions, and I think a lot of times leadership can be one of the loneliest things in the world. Just feeling
One is the loneliest number, Shane.
that's true. Who right now, who would you say has had the biggest influence on your spiritual growth in your life, and how did that relationship come about?
Um, like one single relationship that's had a lot of spiritual growth influence in my life. Is that what
Yep,
you're saying?
yep.
Um, I mean, there's a lot of people on that list, I mean, but I would say, truly, um, I would say probably my wife. And a big reason for that is just the level of access, right? I mean, like, she knows what I'm like at my worst. And she knows, I mean, she just knows, she knows everything really about me. And so I think that is a different level of, for sure, at least on the accountability side, let's say that, right?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I think with the accountability comes development. And so while it might not be necessarily a specific, like, well, she really showed me this scripture and revealed this godly truth to me, it wasn't like that. But I mean, I think just the access that we have to each other's lives has been probably the most shaping thing in my life. But of course, there's a long list of, you know, godly grandparents and being raised in a Christian house, and people like your parents, you. I mean, there's a lot of people in my life that have had, for sure, sharpening um, or shaping influence on my life in a spiritual sense. How about you, Shane?
Gosh, there's been a lot throughout the years. I think one of the biggest impacts for me was probably the youth pastor that I had growing up, Justin Cook. I kind of learned from him growing up. I felt like Christianity was more of a checkbox. It was the things that, okay, I'm a Christian, so these are the things that I do, and then these are the things that you don't do. And he showed me that Christianity was about a relationship, and even growing up in being a preacher's kid, you would think that that was just a given, but until that relationship aspect came along, that completely changed me. And then stayed in contact with him all throughout college. I did an internship with him. He performed my wedding. So he's just been one of those guys that has really shaped and molded me. And then, of course, when tough times hit, he's one of those guys that I call. He's one of those guys that knows lots of things that I struggle with, just like you know. Um,
Yeah.
is
His
it
sister was always uh, when I think of her, she's like a light rain or a dense fog.
I think you're looking at the word misty.
That's her. Go ahead.
uh, eh, we got completely derailed here. So, people are listening to this and they're probably about to check out because this conversation is it's gone somewhere it wasn't supposed to go. But
See,
for
on the
those
flip side, I think they're leaning in more right now.
leaning in more, like where are they going with this? There's
Hmm.
always going to be people who say, I don't need to join a group. Why would you tell them they're wrong, John?
No, you don't need to. I mean, they're not wrong. They don't need to. But there's a lot of things that we don't need to do in life. But for sure, if we did do it, it would better our lives. And I think groups are one of those things, right? You don't need to. You don't
Mm-hmm.
absolutely. You're not going to die if you don't join a group. You're not going to be a not Christian. You're not going to miss heaven if you don't join a group.
Yep.
But there are situations and there are just for sure things in life that God designed to be stronger and better in the context of relationship. And groups is one of those places where it's not just any random community. It's not, Cardinal fan club or something like that. Whatever. It's a Christ centered community. And so even if your group is not like doing a Bible study on the day, there's this common ground of we're building whatever it is on the foundation of Jesus, right? I mean, like, so our conversation can come back to Jesus. Our conversation can come back to how are we godlier men, or how can we be godlier people, or have a stronger marriage, or whatever it is, all in the light of we're trying to be the godliest people that we can be. That's the nuance of group community within the church, right? I mean, it's different than other community because of what it's ultimately on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whenever we had the pleasure of working together, that was back. Gosh, can you believe that's been it was 14 years ago that we.
That's why.
Yep. And
Yeah.
I just started there, and our church was getting ready to go through a small group study called Not a Fan by Kyle Idleman. And it was a month before that series launched that I was in a terrible accident, and two people were killed in that accident. And I remember as we were getting ready to go into that season where we were going to start this group launch, I was scheduled to lead a group at our house. And just like so many people, I didn't want to do a group. I felt like I had to do that group because that was the expectation, or that was the requirement of me. But I wanted no part of leading that group or being in a group, being with people who I didn't even really know. I think there was only one other couple in that group that I had a relationship with. And so forced conversation whenever I was hurting, it felt like the last thing in the world that I wanted.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
but man, looking back, um, God put those people in our life at just the right time because He knew exactly what we needed. We didn't realize how much we needed community at that time, and so that's why I'm such a big advocate for why people need to join groups, because I've seen the difference that it can make. We started off as a group of strangers and ended up with some friends that we still talk to all these years later, even though we live hundreds of miles apart. We've gone on vacations with them, and I think that's a part of group life that people just don't even realize is you're going to get people that aren't just in your life group, but do life with you and are
Yeah.
there for those good times, like a vacation, but are also there in the toughest times. And the tough times, they're going to come.
Yeah. I think sometimes when people think about groups in church, they almost take on this like, I'm not really into forced friendship, make me be friends with people,
Hmm.
yeah. And sometimes I think we do create like those lifelong friendships, like what you're talking about. Other times it's just, hey, I'm hanging out with some people that I wouldn't normally hang out with for 6, 8, 10 weeks, whatever you guys do for
Yeah.
groups, sessions.
Hmm.
And like, so there's not this guarantee that being in a group, you're going to find a new best friend that you've got for life that you can tell your deepest, darkest secrets to. or even that you have to tell any secrets to like this group of people. But sometimes allowing yourself to engage in a group gives God the opportunity to introduce you to somebody who might be that in your life, there might be a natural connection that God has aligned, that by you not taking the step to get into a group, you are essentially, preventing God from making that connection in the way that he had planned.
Absolutely. Yep. And that actually ties along with what Casey talked about this past weekend whenever she talked about Aquila and Priscilla and how they came alongside of Apollos. It's probably not a connection that most people would have naturally, like, oh, you guys are going to be great friends. But God placed them in Apollos' life at just the right time, and they were able to come alongside of him and help him to grow in his knowledge and also his ability to go out and tell other people about Jesus. And so, yeah, it's a bonus if we end up getting lifelong best friends, but also sometimes those people just can be there to come alongside of us and help us grow, and also just, like you said, be there for that season.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I don't know what all Casey talked about, but I mean, there's just so much to the story with Priscilla and Aquila, right? But I mean, I think giving it a chance is the first step to creating some sort of a lifelong friendship. And that's what groups is. But I think, Paul and Priscilla and Aquila could have met in Corinth, right, or wherever they were, Corinth.
Uh-huh.
And, hey, I'm a tent maker. Cool, me too, man. And like, what do we do from here? Like, they could have seen each other as competition and not
Absolutely.
engaged in any further relationship. But I think it was their willingness to explore, like, what does God want to do with this partnership that led to some really cool stuff.
That's really good. I like the tent maker competition. Cool.
Cool, dude.
Uh, well, that's really all that I've got for us. I appreciate your time. Thanks for talking about relationships.
Yeah, well,
I'm thankful for our relationship.
ditto. I love you so much.
Yep, love you too. Have a great
Bye
day.
bye. See you,
Bye.
bye.